I'm Matt, 32, a struggling screenwriter living in Des Moines, Iowa, on my last bit of savings. That night, I drove out because all I saw at home were blank walls and a white computer screen. People say inspiration comes when you move around, when you change your environment. So I decided to try it. It was almost 2 a.m. when I pulled into a rest area on the highway near the city of Cedar Falls. The parking lot was nearly empty, with only 2 big trucks parked far off. I parked near the main entrance, turned off the engine, and just sat there for a while. My mind was as blank as when I started, with 0 ideas. I walked into the rest stop to get a cup of coffee. While waiting for the machine to brew, I went into the restroom. I splashed water on my face and looked up at myself in the mirror. A face with dark circles under the eyes and a messy beard. I dried my face, took a deep breath, and opened the door to walk out. 4 people were standing right outside the door, blocking the exit, which made me jump. They were all very young men. I could smell beer on their breath. A punch landed directly in my stomach before I could react. I staggered, lost my balance, and fell backward onto the cold concrete floor. The kicks started raining down. They kicked my ribs, my back, my legs. I curled up into a fetal position, using my arms to cover my head for protection. Sharp pains spread through my body in waves. I could hear them laughing like they were playing some fun game. Someone's hand violently yanked the wallet from my back pocket. Another one snatched the phone from my jacket pocket. I didn't resist. I just lay there and waited for it all to end. "You got anything else?" A very young but aggressive voice demanded. I shook my head, and a final kick to my back made me groan in pain. Finally, they stopped. I lay still, breathing in short, gasping breaths. When I opened my eyes, I saw them going through the wallet and bursting into laughter as they pulled out a few bills. I figured that was enough to satisfy them. I got up with all the strength I had left. One kid was standing right in front of me. I shoved him aside and ran full speed towards the parking lot. Behind me, loud shouting erupted. They were chasing me. I didn't look back, just ran straight for my car. I scrambled into the car and hit the central lock button immediately. The keys were still in my pocket. I fumbled for them with shaky hands. Just as I got the car started, a loud bang on the window made me jump. The 4 kids were now surrounding the car from all sides. They were banging repeatedly on the windows, the hood, and the trunk. One of them slammed a rock into the front windshield. I stared at the kid standing right in front of the hood. His face was red with excitement, his mouth yelling loudly. I realized he was just a kid, maybe around 15 or 16. His face was still full of acne, and he was wearing a shirt that looked like a high school uniform. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Negotiating with them probably wasn't an option. The other way was to start the car right now. I could back up or drive straight ahead. If I floored the gas pedal, they'd have to jump out of the way. Or maybe they wouldn't be fast enough. I looked again at the face of the kid who was continuing to smash my car. Then, a sudden beam of headlights flashed over. A big pickup truck turned into the parking lot. A tall man stepped out and looked our way with surprise. Immediately, I started the car, shifted into reverse, and slammed the gas pedal. The 2 kids standing behind quickly jumped to the sides. I sped away, driving straight out the exit and onto the highway. The rest stop's lights slowly disappeared behind me. I drove in silence for the next 20 minutes, my hands still shaking. It wasn't until I saw the sign for the next town that I pulled over to the side of the road, retrieved my backup cell phone from the glove compartment, and called 911. My voice was hoarse as I recounted the whole incident. They asked if I was injured and needed an ambulance. I said no. I just wanted to report the event. They confirmed they recorded the information and would send a patrol car to check it out immediately. 2 days later, I got a call from the police officer in charge of the investigation. They said they had reviewed the security camera footage at the rest stop, both from the parking area and nearby traffic cameras. Thanks to that, they were able to identify 2 of my attackers. They were 2 brothers who lived just a few blocks from the scene in a neighborhood known for several disturbance incidents. One was 17 and the other was only 15, the same one who stood in front of my car's hood. Based on the evidence and identification, the police detained both for investigation. The other 2 attackers were still being sought. The officer asked me if I wanted to pursue the case and be ready to testify in court if necessary. I agreed. It wasn't because I wanted revenge. It was because if no one stopped these kids now, many others would be in danger. I couldn't stop thinking about the face of the boy standing in front of the hood with that look of pure excitement. A kid who was only 15 but already knew how to make someone so scared they thought death would be the easier choice. What haunts me is not just the violence, but the feeling that they didn't know what they were doing. If there's anyone young reading this or living as if consequences are only for other people, please stop for a moment. Choices, even those made in a moment of reckless abandon, can become an indelible memory for someone else, or a life sentence from which there's no turning back. At that moment, I could have chosen to drive the car forward to defend myself, but I didn't. I could die, but I'd rather die than hit a 15-year-old kid with my car. Months have passed since the incident, but I've never gone back to that rest stop, and maybe I never will. My name is Rachel. I'm 27, and I have a terrifying story to share. I grew up in a small, quiet town in rural Arkansas where life was pretty boring. When I turned 18, I was fed up with the small town life and wanted more excitement. I decided to move away, start a new life, meet new people, and find a job that paid better. I sold my car and a few other belongings, then moved to Tucson, Arizona. I fell in love with the city because it was completely different from my hometown, and that was exactly what I was looking for. Soon after I moved, I got a night shift job at Circle K. The pay was good, and it was close to my apartment, so I felt lucky. Surprisingly, the night shift wasn't as busy as I had expected, with a maximum of about 10 customers a night. Everything was going well. I had never had any trouble with customers. At the time, I still didn't have any friends in the new city, just a few co-workers and my manager whom I only saw during work hours. At about 5 a.m. after my shift, I walked home to my apartment. It was still dark because it was winter in Tucson. As I walked on the sidewalk, I noticed a red car parked on the side of the road with the passenger window rolled down. I caught a glimpse of a man sitting inside staring at me. Being shy and introverted, I didn't dare to look back. Even after I had passed the car, I could still feel his eyes on my back. I tried to keep my composure and quickly got to my apartment. I didn't think much of it and went straight to bed because I was exhausted. I lived alone in a fairly spacious 3-bedroom apartment, and the entire ground floor was mine. The 2 upstairs rooms were empty. It wasn't the best neighborhood, and my bedroom was on the ground floor, with the window facing the main street. Not far from my window was a trash can that homeless people often used. As a girl from the countryside, my biggest fear in the city was being kidnapped, harmed, or sold to human trafficking rings. My mother had always warned me about the dangers of big cities, and it had really stuck with me. From the first day I arrived, I was always on guard. At about 6 a.m., I woke up to a strange sound. I heard a light tapping on my bedroom window. I was lying with my back to the window, but my eyes were wide open, and I was completely alert. The light was still on in the room, and my old blinds were missing a slat, leaving a 6-inch gap. That meant whoever was outside could see me clearly in my bed. The tapping lasted for about 5 to 6 times. I lay there, frozen, trying to convince myself that it wasn't a person. Maybe it was a cat or a tree branch hitting the glass. Anything but a person standing outside my window looking at me. I slowly sat up and rubbed my eyes, pretending to be groggy, as if I hadn't heard anything. Then I stood up, walked out of the room, as if I were just going to the bathroom, trying to act normal. But my heart was pounding so hard, I could barely breathe. As soon as I was out of the room, I ran to the landline phone and dialed 911. Before I could even connect, I heard my bedroom window being pried open. My heart felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. The dispatcher answered, and I quickly gave them my address, begging them to come as fast as possible because an intruder was trying to get in. I told her I would hide in the bathroom. Luckily, there was a police station nearby, so I knew they would arrive soon. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. A minute later, the intruder was at the bathroom door, banging on it repeatedly. I leaned my back against the door, just hoping it was strong enough to hold. 2 minutes later, I heard police sirens, then the front door being opened. I heard footsteps running and yelling, with the police shouting for him to get on the ground. About 10 minutes later, everything was quiet again. A female police officer came to the bathroom door and spoke to me softly, saying it was safe to come out. She asked me a few questions and got some initial information. I told her everything I remembered, including the man in the red car from earlier that morning. When she heard that, she told me the police had caught the intruder and were holding him outside. She asked if I recognized him. When I stepped outside and looked, I was stunned. It was the same man I had seen in the red car. After he was interrogated, he was officially charged with attempted robbery, illegal entry, and stalking. It turned out he had been watching me since the first day I moved to Tucson. He confessed to following me every day, knowing my work hours, my home address, and even the gym I had just signed up for a few days before. He didn't clearly state his specific motive, and the police didn't find any weapons on him. Afterward, they told me he had a history of mental health disorders and schizophrenia, and had been arrested several times for unstable behavior. He had recently stopped taking his medication. I can't bear to think about what he might have done if he hadn't been stopped in time that night. After the incident, I moved to a safer neighborhood, and I'm now on the 27th floor of an apartment complex. I'm still working the night shift at Circle K because the pay is so good. I wonder if moving to a big city was a mistake for an introvert like me. I'm Nicole, 26, and I love life on the road. I converted an old Ford Transit van into a fully equipped mobile home. I came to the mountains of Montana in early winter. That night was December 17th, and the temperature dropped lower than expected. Even in the wilderness, I'd never felt lonely or scared until that night. I fell into a deep sleep, curled up in my thick sleeping bag, feeling safe in my little van. I jolted awake. My phone showed 4:27 a.m. Maybe it was just a tree branch blown against the van by the wind. The sound came again, and it wasn't a branch. My mind told me it might just be a hiker needing help, but no one hikes at 4 a.m. in such heavy snow. I reached for my phone, trembling as I turned on the video recording app. "I know you're in there. I've been watching you." A deep male voice echoed. My throat tightened. I tried to keep my phone steady. "I don't know you. What do you want?" I crawled towards the driver's seat, careful not to make a sound. Through the windshield, I saw a car parked far away, its headlights blazing. "I like the color of the underwear you're wearing." He sounded amused. My heart stopped. How long had he been watching me? "I've called the police. They're on their way." A raspy laugh replied, "There's no cell service here, Lisa. You checked when you arrived, remember? You even complained about it. A pretty car like this must have a lot of doors." I wonder if you've locked them all. I swallowed hard. The passenger window. It wasn't secure, and I hadn't had time to fix it. My survival instinct kicked in. I lunged for the driver's seat. The keys were already in the ignition. The engine roared to life in the dark. The van lurched forward, almost sliding off the unpaved road. In the rearview mirror, I saw the black car also start to move, its headlights aimed directly at my van. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, speed rocketing to 55 miles per hour on the slippery forest road. The snow fell heavier, visibility reduced to just a few feet in front of me. The other car closed in, less than 15 feet from my tail. I could see the outlines of two men behind the wheel. The road suddenly curved. Instead of slowing down, I tightened my grip on the wheel and took a risk. I knew a small path that continued along the hillside. As I reached the bend, I suddenly pulled the handbrake, sharply turned the wheel, and swerved the van onto the narrow path to the right. The van tilted but held on. The car behind couldn't react in time to the maneuver. It sped straight down the main road, tires screeching in the dark as they realized they'd lost me. I turned off my lights, letting the van slowly coast down the path. After a few minutes, I stopped beside a large rock, hiding the van from the main road. The receding engine sound indicated they had gone in the other direction. All night, I sat leaning against the door, my heart rate unable to return to normal. As soon as dawn broke, I drove to the nearest town's police station. I reported everything. The officer listened, his expression growing more concerned. "I need to tell you something." The officer sighed. "This isn't the first report we've received. In the past 6 months, 3 other women have reported similar experiences when alone at night. What happened to them? 2 of them disappeared 2 weeks later. The third was found, but I don't want to go into detail. So, there's a predator targeting women? Not one. I think they operate as a group." I returned to my van. The sense of safety it once provided was completely gone. I decided to drive home to my parents in Ohio and sell the van. On the way, I stopped in a small town to stay overnight at a hotel. As I walked into the hotel room and locked the door, the images of that terrifying experience kept replaying in my mind. I opened my phone to rewatch the video I had recorded. Maybe I would see something I had missed. With trembling hands, I opened the video file. The screen was pitch black, but the audio was clearly recorded. "Lisa." I replayed that part. The man had called me Lisa, but my name is Nicole. I quickly opened my Instagram app, searching for the name Lisa, along with the keywords van life and Montana. After a few minutes of scrolling, my heart nearly stopped. A young woman named Lisa Wilson, with reddish-brown hair like mine, also lived in a van and had come to Montana 2 months ago. As I looked deeper into her pictures, I noticed many astonishing similarities. Not just the hair color, but also her hairstyle, clothing style, and even how she decorated her van. I scrolled down to Lisa's older posts. She bought her van from the same dealership in Seattle where I bought mine. The Ford Transit model is very popular in the van life community, and metallic silver paint is also a common choice. I scrolled further and discovered that Lisa had worked for the same travel magazine I had contributed to. I believed that if anyone followed both of us on social media, they could easily mistake us for each other. I rushed to my camera bag and pulled out an old memory card I hadn't deleted. There was a photo of a sunrise near the campground, and in the distance, I saw a Ford Transit van identical to mine. My hands trembled as I realized the truth. They mistook me for Lisa. Immediately, I called the police officer who took my report. The police asked me to bring the van to the station for a thorough inspection. My Ford Transit wasn't Lisa's van, but they were almost identical. More importantly, through GPS and gas station data, the police discovered that both Lisa and I had traveled similar routes within the past 2 months. 2 weeks later, I heard that the FBI had arrested 4 suspects at a secluded farm more than 60 miles from me. They found evidence linking them to at least 7 other disappearances in Montana and other states. This network had been operating for years, targeting people living on the road because they had less social contact. Lisa Wilson was not found alive. 6 months later, I'm still trying to rebuild my life in a small apartment in Columbus. I no longer live on the road, but I've never given up on my dream of freedom and exploration. Instead, I'm writing a book about women's safety. In my photography notebook, I still keep a picture of Lisa, the stranger whose life became intertwined with mine by chance.
I'm Betty, 32 years old, living in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm an extrovert who likes to party. Every weekend, I will go to a bar to relieve stress after a week of work. Gradually, I cannot do without cocktails, music, lights, and dances. They make me feel extremely relaxed. And every day I came home later and later. There were times when I didn't leave the bar until dawn. But I just went there to have fun, absolutely nothing else. I live alone in an apartment in the Edge in downtown area. I am free to do what I want, and I have no intention of getting married. Everything went normal until one day. That was Saturday. I arrived to my apartment lobby around 12 o'clock. My hair was messy. I held high heels in one hand and a handbag in the other, walking unsteadily. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button to the 15th floor. I could feel the strong smell of my alcohol throughout the elevator. Just as the elevator door was about to close, a hand came to stop it. Entering was a tall man, dressed in black and wearing a full face mask. I was half sober, half drunk, so I didn't pay too much attention to him. He reached across my face and pressed the button for floor number 14. The smell of perfume on him was quite impressive. Silence reigned for a few seconds. The elevator displayed floor number 14. The man stepped out. He turned around and looked straight at me, and at the same time took out a small knife. He spoke in a very low voice. "See you on the 15th floor, sister." Then, a terrifying laugh echoed. It took me a few seconds to realize I was in danger. I quickly dialed the elevator's floor number. I want to call the police, but I can't remember the phone number. Without any preparations, the elevator reached the 15th floor and opened the door. My body stiffened. I knew I was about to encounter something terrible, but I couldn't resist anymore. A few seconds later, everything went quiet. I slowly walked out of the elevator, looked around and saw no one. I quickly ran back to my apartment and locked my door. If it were anyone else, I think they would call the police or building security. But I don't. Part of me is controlled by alcohol. I threw my things onto the floor and ran into the bedroom. I slept and forgot about the danger that was still lurking. The next morning, I woke up and looked at the clock. It was already past 10 a.m. My head hurts, my whole body aches, and the memory of last night is like a broken tape. When I sat up, trying to regain consciousness, I was startled to see a sharp knife placed on the pillow next to me. Holding up the knife for inspection, my heart felt like it was tightening as I read the name engraved onto the blade. Frank. Running out of the bedroom, before my eyes was the chaotic scene of the living room. Underwear was scattered all over the floor, but it was all torn. Returning to the bedroom, I now noticed that the wardrobe had been ransacked and my underwear was gone. Neatly placed inside is a set of red underwear and a piece of paper. "You will look great wearing it." I panicked, crumpled the piece of paper and took the clothes straight to the trash can in the kitchen and threw it in. I tied the trash bag tightly. In the cutlery drawer, a string appeared. I grabbed it and pulled hard. The drawer slowly opened, revealing an old, worn-out doll wearing a white dress, her body tied tightly with a rope. The doll has a pretty smile, but has 2 black tear lines drawn on its face. Trembling, I picked up the doll and saw its dress was stained red in a sensitive position. I was extremely panicked. I took scissors and cut the doll to pieces, trying to put it in a trash bag with the underwear. But its eyes were staring at me. His eyes were innocent but filled with pain and resentment. I quickly ran towards the door. I didn't want these disgusting things to exist in the house. Running to the door, my heart was once again squeezed. The picture I took with my best friend was posted on the door. We hugged each other tightly, cheek to cheek. But my friend's face was pasted over with another man's smile. a person I hate and loathe, Frank. I fell to the floor. My head hurt. I hugged my chest and sobbed. More than 20 years ago, my mother remarried a man named Roger. My stepfather is very kind and warm, but his stepson ruined my childhood. He is Frank, a cruel pervert hiding under the appearance of a handsome and kind man. He bullied me when I was young, leaving me with long scars. When I was a high school student, he began to pay attention and confessed his love to me many times. I tried every way to avoid him and denounce him to my mother, but Frank always has the perfect excuse to cover things up. One time when my mother and stepfather were away, he lured me into the warehouse, tied me up with a rope, and gagged me. He deserves to be damned for what he did to me. That disgusting pervert was sentenced to 15 years in prison. For the past 15 years, I have had a new peaceful life. I seem to have forgotten that haunting face and smile. He's back again. Why did he find my place? Is he planning on ruining my life again? The deep voice, accompanied by a chilling laughter, echoed right next to my ear, pushing me into the depths of utter terror.
Nice to see you again, dear sister.
I have smelled this perfume somewhere.
I stopped by a Wendy's one late evening after a long, exhausting day of work. The bright red neon lights from the sign reflected on the wet road, creating a scene that was both familiar and vaguely unsettling. I had returned there many times, not necessarily for the food, but for something else. The cashier, the young girl with bright red hair, freckles dotting her cheeks, and bright eyes. She looked exactly like Wendy from the logo of the restaurant, to the point that it was hard to believe. I began forming the habit of coming at the same time each week, just to see her. One time, I noticed that the dark circles under her eyes had become darker. There was something in her eyes that made me feel uneasy, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. She seemed tired, her movements slower. When I paid, her hand trembled slightly. I almost asked if she was okay, but then I held back. We weren't friends, just a customer and a cashier. Then one day she disappeared. No one mentioned her, and no one took her place at the cash register. I asked another employee, but he just shrugged, showing no sign of concern. Their indifference made me uncomfortable. She had worked there for so long, and no one cared when she disappeared. I kept coming to the store regularly, out of habit, and hoping to see that girl again. Then I saw her, but not behind the counter, on the store sign. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but when I looked closely, the face on the sign had changed. The classic Wendy smile now seemed off, her mouth stretched wider, her eyes hollow, and her skin was no longer smooth, showing cracks as if it was about to split. Her red hair was no longer cheerfully braided, but was wild, untidy. I tried not to think about it, but every time I came back, the sign kept warping more. Her eyes sunk deeper, the smile became more distorted, and her lips seemed to be trying to say something. No one else seemed to notice. Or was I imagining it? One time when my car stopped at a red light right in front of the store, the Wendy's sign suddenly blinked off for a second. When it lit up again, I saw her eyes seem to have shifted, staring directly at me. I was so startled, I nearly crashed into the car in front of me. One night, I found an old article online. A female employee from this Wendy's had been murdered years ago. The owner had become furious when she was late for work, and he attacked her like a madman. Her body was hidden in the freezer and wasn't discovered until weeks later, when the stench of decay started to spread. The store owner had disappeared, and no one knew where he was. The store continued to operate as if nothing had ever happened. I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't return to that store for months, trying to erase all memories of the cashier who looked like Wendy. But the obsession didn't go away. I began having nightmares. In the dreams, I found myself standing in the cold kitchen of the store, the sound of water dripping from the freezer. A pale hand suddenly reached out, touching my leg. When I turned around, Wendy was standing there, her lips moving, but no sound coming out. She was trying to say something. One night, when I drove by, I couldn't help but glance at the sign. Wendy was looking at me. Her eyes were empty, but I could clearly sense the awareness in them. Her mouth stretched wider than ever before, as if trying to say something. I could almost imagine her last words before she was killed, perhaps pleading, perhaps in fear. A whisper echoed, "Help me." I sped up. I never went back there again, but every time I see a Wendy's sign anywhere, I can't help but glance at it. And in that moment, I always feel she's watching me. I'm Cecilia, 32, happily married with a husband and a 6-year-old. On my way to grab my kid from school, he was all pumped up seeing the streetlights for the biggest holiday of the year. But for me, the scariest time of year is coming up. Christmas, 25 years ago. I was the same age my kid is now. That day was Christmas, my 6th birthday, and the day I lost it all. I also had a happy family with my folks and my brother. We lived in Miles City, Runnels County, Texas. That Christmas night, I couldn't sleep at all. My mother told me that I was a special child, that Santa would give me Christmas presents and birthday presents. My mom told me I was a special kid, that Santa would hook me up with Christmas and birthday presents. Out of nowhere, I heard a noise from the roof. I straight up jumped up and ran to my parents' room. "Dad, Mom, Santa's here. I hear footsteps on the roof." Mom put the book down, looked at me, gave me a little smile, and then took me to my room. "Honey, Santa will bring you presents if you go to bed on time. Deal?" I nodded at Mom, jumped into bed, threw the blanket over me, and shut my eyes. Then I remembered something and quickly told my mom, "Mom, don't forget to leave chocolate milk and cookies out for Santa when he drops off the gifts." Mom laughed, patted my head, and nodded. When Mom left, I hesitated for a sec, then jumped out of bed, tiptoed to the stairs, and peeked down. Yep, Mom had left cookies and milk on the dining table. As Mom walked past the front door, she reached out to lock it and yelled at Dad for being careless. Before Mom went upstairs, I had enough time to dash into my room and hop back in bed. I laid in bed for a bit, but I couldn't sleep. The noise just kept getting louder and louder. I totally forgot what Mom said, so I left my room again, went to the stairs, and peeked down at the living room. The dark figure just vanished, heading to the dining room. It was someone every kid in the world knows and waits for. Santa Claus. I ran to my brother's room, trying to wake him up. Jeffrey, Santa's in the kitchen. Wake up!" My brother was still out cold, so not wanting to miss Santa, I rushed downstairs. As soon as I got close to the living room, Santa was standing by the tree, getting ready to pull a gift out of his bag. But nope. It was a tool for chopping wood. I knew, because my dad had shown it to me once. The thing Santa was holding was different. It was red and long. He slung it over his shoulder, gave a little smile, and slowly turned around. My excitement quickly turned into nerves. I just froze, because this Santa was way different from what I imagined. His laugh freaked me out, so I quickly ducked behind the stairs before he walked by. Back then, being an innocent 6-year-old, I just stood there watching, not knowing I'd just come face to face with the devil. He headed up to my brother's room. After a few seconds, I heard sounds I couldn't even explain back then. I just stood there, stunned. But later, I realized it was the sound of something brutal. It was the sticky sound, Santa's creepy laugh, and the sound of liquid dripping and splashing everywhere. Santa walked out, and I could see his face. It was so weird. No long white beard, just a pale face, black lips and eyes, and a big creepy smile, and a long, pointy nose with a black dot at the tip. No gift bag, just him humming with a creepy smile, walking around still holding that wood-cutting tool, dripping red stuff everywhere. He went into his parents' room, and then I heard my dad let out a weak scream for a sec. Then, that sticky sound came back, and this time, it was way clearer. Then my mom screamed, and I'd never heard her scream that loud before. "Jeffrey!" My mom yelled my brother's name, but didn't call mine. "Jeffrey!" She busted open my brother's door, then screamed like she was in pain and totally freaked out. Mom was followed by Santa, and his arms, his face, everything was just covered in red. Mom was about to head to my room, but then switched directions and ran downstairs. At that moment, I was thinking, didn't Mom remember me? Didn't she care where I was? As soon as Mom got close to me, Santa swung the axe at her back. I saw the whole thing, every single hit. Mom's screams and last words were just her calling out my brother's name. My heart was racing, and I barely had time to turn around and run for the kitchen. I didn't think twice, just yanked open the cupboard, crawled in, and tried to stay as quiet as possible, shaking while I heard footsteps getting closer. I peeked through the crack in the cupboard door and saw Santa happily munching on cookies and sipping milk. He was sucking on his bright red fingers, looking all refreshed and grinning like he was loving it. After he finished the cookies and milk, he washed the plate and cup, then left with a creepy laugh. The next day, my grandma found me, and there were a bunch of police at the house. Grandma hugged me so tight, I could feel her holding back tears. "Thank God for protecting my Cecilia." On the wall next to the Christmas tree, I spelled out each letter in bright red. SANTACLOWN. It's been 25 years, and they still haven't figured out who that Santa was. I get why my mom went into the room, and why she only called my brother's name. In that moment, my mom wanted Santa to think there was only one kid in the house, my brother. I was scared of the color red, scared of that guy in the red suit and black boots, scared of the noises at night, the footsteps, the sound of running water. I've never been able to forget or shake off the terror of that night. I am Rachel, a veterinarian. I've loved animals ever since I was a kid, and now I get to live out my passion working at a big vet hospital in the city. In my free time, I used to take care of pets at people's homes, especially for families who didn't feel good about sending them to pet hotels. That job not only helped me make some extra money, but also let me spend more time getting to know and understand animals better. But then last fall, something happened that changed everything. One day I got a call from Merlin, a middle-aged guy who lives alone in a big house in a fancy neighborhood. Merlin's got 2 long-haired cats, Lily and Lulu, and a South American macaw named Daisy. I was really impressed with Daisy because she's friendly, funny, and can talk so well. Daisy absolutely loves her owner. She's always sitting on Merlin's shoulder and sweetly calling him Dad. Merlin needed me to stay for a couple of days to take care of them since he had to go on a last-minute business trip. Merlin was really happy when he found out my main job is a vet nurse, and the pay he offered me was great too. But I was a little hesitant since I'd never taken care of birds before. Merlin reassured me that Daisy was smart. She just needed to be fed on time and have her water changed regularly since she's kinda picky. I agreed, figuring it'd be a new experience. The first day, everything went pretty smoothly. Merlin had everything ready, food and clear instructions, so I had no trouble at all. The two cats were really well behaved, and Daisy was friendly. I even taught her a few new words. Merlin's house was huge, with modern furniture, cozy lighting, and soft carpets. I felt pretty comfortable, even though the quiet space was a little unfamiliar. When night came, I was shown to the guest room to sleep. The room was big and clean, with a single bed and a soft nightlight. But when I lay down, I heard this soft humming sound coming from somewhere in the room. I figured it was probably the ventilation system or some electronic device in the house. I didn't think much of it and just started to fall asleep. But as soon as I fell asleep, Daisy woke me up by calling out loudly, "Dad!" I jumped up, feeling a bit uneasy. But after a few minutes, everything went quiet again. I told myself Daisy was just calling randomly and tried to fall back asleep. The next day, everything was good. In the morning, I fed Daisy, filled her water tray, and played with the two cats. In the evening, while I was watching TV, I got a text from Merlin. He apologized for not being able to make it back on time, asked me to stay another day, and even sent me double the pay. I happily agreed, thinking everything was all good. After dinner, I decided to hop in the shower. While I was in the shower, I heard Daisy's voice again, this time louder and clearer. "Dad! Dad!" Strangely, Daisy's voice wasn't the only one I heard. The two cats also started meowing nonstop, like they were trying to get their owner to stay close. I turned off the faucet, stood still in the bathroom, and tried to listen. But after a few minutes, the place went back to this creepy silence. I walked out, checked the main door and windows, and they were all locked. Still, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling that was creeping in. I went back to my room, locked the door, and flopped down on the bed. But that familiar buzzing sound came back, this time louder and like it was right next to me. I turned on the nightlight, sat up, and looked around the room. My eyes landed on a faint red light behind the nightstand. My heart started racing, and I was wondering where that light was coming from. My hand was shaking as I reached out and pulled the nightstand away from the wall. And then, I froze. Behind the nightstand was a small camera, and the light was on, showing it was still running. My whole body froze. A bunch of questions rushed through my mind. Who put this camera here? Did Merlin know about it? Or did he set it up? I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so much I almost dropped it while dialing the police. My voice shook as I tried to explain what was going on. I also called my parents, begging them to come over right away. While I was waiting, I locked the door and sat on the bed. But before they got there, another sound nearly made me panic. I heard footsteps echoing in the hallway, very soft, but loud enough for me to catch in the silence. A few minutes later, the police and my parents showed up. I rushed out of the room, crying as I ran to them. My parents hugged me tight when they saw me panicking, and the police started checking around the house. They didn't find any signs of forced entry or anything weird outside. They explained that since this was Merlin's house, they couldn't search inside without a warrant or permission. I quickly packed up my stuff, sent the money back to Merlin's account, and left the house that night. I was sure he was hiding somewhere in the house, but he was the owner of the place. I just wanted to get out of there for good and not know anything else. From that day on, I just focused on my job as a vet nurse and turned down all offers to take care of pets at home. Even though I didn't want to, the memories of the house, Daisy's dad, and the hidden camera kept haunting me. It was a reminder that sometimes the safest places can hide some pretty scary secrets. I clearly remember it was a rainy night in June. The sound of rain tapping steadily on the roof created a rhythmic sound. The kind of weather that makes you just want to curl up in a warm blanket and text the person you like. That's exactly what I was doing, surrounded by pillows, immersed in darkness, lit only by the faint blue glow from my phone's screen. Her name was Jenny, and I was Victor, a 15-year-old high school student. Jenny was beautiful with long blonde hair and a smile that could light up a dark room. She was in my science class at Westlake High School. It took me 2 months to muster the courage to ask for her Snapchat, and we started texting every night, which became a routine. I had waited for an hour when Jenny texted me saying she was alone because her parents had taken her younger brother to the doctor for an emergency fever. A Snapchat notification popped up. I quickly unlocked my phone. It was a selfie from Jenny. She was smiling, wearing a purple hoodie, with her hair falling down to her shoulders. Her bedroom was dark, lit only by a small nightlight on the bedside table. A message came with the photo. "I'm pretty tired, but I don't want to sleep yet. Tell me something fun." I smiled and started typing my reply. But then I stopped. Something felt off. I looked at the photo again carefully, and I noticed the window in her bedroom in the background, reflecting the dim light from the nightlight. And when I zoomed in on the picture, my heart almost stopped. There was a face in the window. At first, I thought it was just an illusion caused by the light and shadows. So I sat up, turned the screen brightness all the way up, and looked again. My heart suddenly raced as I realized that it was definitely the face of a man. Although the image was blurry, I could still see his eyes staring directly at Jenny. My hands began to shake. The phone nearly slipped from my hands. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest. "Jenny, someone is outside your window," I typed as quickly as I could. I waited for a few seconds. No response. I typed again, this time with more exclamation marks, as though that would make my message arrive faster. "Jenny, someone is watching you through the window. Call your parents now." 3 minutes passed. No response. Should I call the police? But what would I say? We had just met at school. I knew she lived in Oak Ridge, but I didn't know her exact address. My phone buzzed. Jenny was calling me on video. My hands shook so much I could barely swipe to answer. When I did, I saw Jenny's face appear on the screen, pale and tear-streaked. "Victor, there's someone trying to get into my room," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Call your parents." "I've called them. They're on their way." Then I heard it, the scratching sound on the glass. Not from the window in my room, but from Jenny's side. I could see the terror on her face. It's trying to open the window," Jenny whispered, her voice so quiet I could barely hear. I didn't know what to do. A sense of helplessness washed over me. I was here, safe in my room, while Jenny, the girl I liked, was facing a real nightmare. "Can you run out of the room or lock the door?" "I can't move." The scratching continued. Then a new sound, the sound of metal. He was trying to open the window from the outside. Jenny turned the camera toward the window, and there was a shadowy figure outside, faint behind the glass. A hand was pushing. The window was slowly opening. "Jenny, run! Run now!" I yelled, tears starting to stream down my face. The camera shook violently. As Jenny got up, I heard the sound of hurried, heavy footsteps as she ran through the room. The sound of the door opening, the heavy breathing. She was running down the hallway. "I'm running downstairs. Victor, if anything happens." "No, nothing's going to happen. Your dad's almost home, right? Just hide. Go to the kitchen and find a knife to protect yourself." The camera continued to shake as Jenny ran down the stairs. I caught a brief glimpse of the dark living room, then the kitchen. "Victor, I think I hear footsteps on the stairs." "Jenny, hide. Hide now." "I'm in the kitchen cupboard under the sink." "Your dad will be home soon. just hide and stay quiet. For a moment, we just sat there in silence. I could hear Jenny's breath, tight and labored. Part of me still couldn't believe this was happening. Just 10 minutes ago, we were texting like normal, sharing stories about the day at school. Now, I was watching extreme fear unfold before my eyes, and I couldn't do anything to help. Then I heard it through the phone, the slow steps coming into the kitchen. The footsteps stopped. I could hear Jenny's breath becoming more frantic.
Jenny Miller.
A voice spoke up, making both me and Jenny jump.
I know where you are. Why don't we talk?
Jenny put her hand over her mouth to stop her breathing. I could see her tears in the dim light from the phone screen.
I've been watching you for a long time, Jenny. On Snapchat, you never noticed that my account was always there, following every one of your posts. I know you like purple. I know you hate broccoli. I know you sleep with a moon-shaped nightlight.
I felt sick. How long had this person been watching her?
And I know you're talking to that kid, Victor. He's not worth your time, Jenny. He's just a little boy. You need a real man.
My heart stopped when I heard my name. How did he know about me? The footsteps started again, walking around the kitchen.
You can't hide forever, Jenny. I've seen all the videos of your house you posted on Snapchat. I know every corner of this house, and I especially know about the cupboard under the sink where you're hiding. Come out, Jenny, or I'll break this door down. 1, 2.
The front door opened, cutting off the intruders counting. Jenny! I heard the sound of hurried footsteps leaving the kitchen, the door opening and slamming shut.
Dad!
Jenny screamed, pushing open the cupboard door. The camera shook as she ran toward the front door. Through the blurry screen, I saw Mr. Miller tightly hug Jenny. She was sobbing in his arms. Are you okay? What happened? Dad, there was a man. He climbed into my window. He was chasing me. We should call the police. The police arrived, took Jenny's statement, and checked the house. They found marks on the bedroom window showing that someone had tried to open it from the outside. They also found footprints in the garden beneath Jenny's window, but no traces of the intruder inside the house. It seemed like he had fled when Mr. Miller arrived. Jenny showed the police the Snapchat photo, but it was too blurry, not enough to become a lead in the investigation. 3 months have passed since that night. Jenny transferred schools because her parents didn't feel safe at Westlake anymore. We still kept in touch, but we didn't text every night like before. There was a fear that had changed between us. The police never found the intruder. No security cameras in the area captured his image. The footprints didn't match any criminal records in their database. Sometimes, when I lie in bed at night, looking at the darkness outside my window, I wonder if he's still watching me. And the worst part is, I can't stop thinking about how he knew my name, how he knew Jenny, and I were texting each other. He had been following all of her social media accounts and probably mine too. Since that night, I've made all my social media accounts private. I no longer post selfies, always make sure the curtains are drawn tightly at night, and I always feel like someone is watching me.
I'm Jason, and these are my 2 hands without fingers. This is the most painful and terrifying experience I've ever had. 10 years ago, I was a sophomore at the University of California, San Diego. I spent my free time working as a freelance deliverer. The job was risky, but it offered flexible hours and helped me cover my living expenses. Occasionally, I'd receive extra tips, which always made me excited. I'd been doing this job for nearly a year when that fateful night occurred. On that day, I didn't go to work. Instead, I spent time working on a presentation for the end of a course. I forgot to update my account on the order receiving website to not accepting orders. Around 10 p.m., my account received a notification about a delivery order. Before I could read all the details, my phone rang unexpectedly from an unknown number. I answered, and on the other end was a woman who wanted me to deliver the package to the specified address by midnight. She emphasized that it was 12 midnight and instructed me to be punctual. Before I could respond, the call ended abruptly. Right after that, the delivery fee was transferred to my account. Seeing the amount, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was 10 times more than my usual orders. Immediately, I forgot about the importance of my presentation. I rushed from my dorm to the location where the orders were gathered. On the package, there was an address and a phone number, but no recipient name. I started the delivery at 10:30 p.m. It was an old but spacious house tucked away in a narrow alley. Checking my watch, it was 11:57, and I stood at the door, ready and alert, not daring to waste a single second. As the clock struck midnight, I immediately rang the doorbell. But before the bell stopped ringing, the door of the house swung open. From inside, an elderly woman stepped out, looking at me with indifferent eyes. She was tall, but her skin was wrinkled and dark, with high cheekbones and sunken features, and her hair was disheveled, some parts long, some short. I politely greeted her and handed her the package. When I presented the delivery slip and asked her to sign to confirm the receipt of the package, she hesitated. Instead of signing, she stared at my hand for a moment before speaking in a deep, hoarse voice that startled me slightly. "Would you stay for dinner with me?" "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am, but Without letting me finish, she handed me $100, saying it was a tip. She promised to pay more if I agreed to have dinner with her and assured me it would only take 20 minutes. I agreed, feeling a bit crazy, but that's what I did at the time. I thought she might be very lonely and in need of companionship. Plus, it wouldn't take much time, and I could go home and continue preparing for tomorrow's presentation. Stepping into the house, everything was rather old but clean and orderly. She invited me to sit at the dining table, where food and utensils were already prepared for two. She went into the kitchen to get something. Wanting to break the silence, I asked her name. "Adela," came the short, indifferent reply. I tried asking a few more questions, but she didn't respond, so I fell silent. A moment later, she emerged, placing a pair of scissors and a gun on the table. I was both surprised and puzzled why dinner would require a gun. Adela placed the package on the table and used the scissors to open it. As soon as the last strip of tape was cut and the box was opened, I felt a horrifying regret for agreeing to dinner with her. The package I had delivered turned out to contain human fingers. Adela poured the blood-stained fingers onto her plate and mine. A chill ran down my spine. My skin crawled and my mind reeled in shock. I was too stunned to speak. Adela gripped the gun tightly and began devouring the fingers voraciously. She looked at me and ordered me to eat. Trembling, I lifted the fork and stabbed at a piece of salad near the fingers. I forced a bite of salad into my mouth, suppressing my urge to retch. The metallic stench of blood overwhelmed me, causing my head to spin. I gagged and clamped my mouth shut, sitting in silence as I watched the terrifying woman devour the fingers on the plate. My body was drenched in sweat, shivering uncontrollably, every cell in me trembling. Adela took a tissue to wipe the blood from her mouth just as the table clock unexpectedly chimed loudly. "The 20-minute dinner is over," Adela's terrifying voice echoed. She pulled out $100 and placed it on the table. Adela then initiated another transaction. She said she would pay me $100,000 if I'd let her eat all 10 of my fingers. "These fingers taste too ordinary. Your fingers look tastier," she said. My heart felt like it was being squeezed. This woman was truly insane. I began to feel uneasy, fully aware of everything around me, but I couldn't control my body anymore. I sat there witnessing the whole process of that insane woman eating my fingers, one by one, without resistance, pain, or screams. I woke up in the hospital with both hands bandaged. I still couldn't control my body. The doctor informed me that all 10 fingertips had been severed. Blood tests revealed I was poisoned with a toxin that rendered my body in a paralyzed state beyond control. A passerby found me in a dire condition by the roadside and brought me to the hospital. As for Adela, she was found dead in that house, choked on bone fragments lodged in her throat. She was infected with a virus that affected her brain and nervous system due to cannibalism. I abandoned my studies and lost a bright future ahead of me. If only I hadn't been consumed by greed and curiosity. I wish I could forget the horrifying images of that night forever.
I'm Nicholas, 19, living in a chill suburb of a small town in Michigan. I've always seen this place as pretty quiet, maybe even kind of boring. But last week, something went down that totally changed everything. It was the night I figured out that sometimes the scariest stuff isn't shadows or ghost stories, it's people, the ones lurking behind a screen. The story starts on a Wednesday night while I was swiping through Tinder. I wasn't really thinking about it, just scrolling like it was any other way to kill time. But then, this familiar face popped up, Maria. She went to high school with me, one of the most popular girls in our class. With her long, shiny hair, big eyes, and bright smile, she always caught everyone's attention. I could barely believe it when I got the notification. She swiped right on me. I texted her right away to show my excitement, trying to keep it cool. Maria and I were texting back and forth for a few days. She seemed upbeat, friendly, but mysterious too. When Maria texted me saying she wanted to come over next Friday night, I felt like everything was perfect, and I just wanted to jump around with excitement. My parents were off on a weekend trip to Wisconsin, and my little sister Mia was usually in her room watching movies. I didn't even think twice about saying yes since I knew Maria, and I would have some time alone. Friday night, I got everything set up. The living room was clean, snacks were set out on the table, and I even turned on the patio lights to make it feel cozy. But when it hit 8, then 9, Maria still hadn't shown up. I started to get worried, but I told myself maybe she was stuck in traffic, something came up, or she just changed her mind. By 10 p.m., I sent a couple more texts, but she didn't reply. By this point, I was starting to feel uneasy. I grabbed my phone and gave her a call. When she picked up, I heard Maria's familiar voice, but it didn't feel as comforting as I thought it would. Her voice was cold and distant, and what she said hit me like a punch to the gut. Maria wasn't even on Tinder. Someone must have been pretending to be her. I felt like my blood just turned to ice. If it wasn't Maria, then who the heck had been texting me? Even worse, how did that person know where I live? I quickly went around checking all the windows and doors to make sure they were locked. My mind was racing with a million thoughts. Was this just some stupid prank, or was it something way more serious? My sister was up in her room. I didn't want to freak her out, so I just casually told her to lock her door. Mia gave me a curious look, but I just shook my head and didn't say anything else. I sat back down on the couch in the living room, trying to chill out. Outside, the wind was whistling through the bare branches, making this soft, whispery sound. The clock in the living room kept ticking, and every second felt like it was dragging on forever. Out of nowhere, I heard a weird noise coming from upstairs. I jumped up, my heart racing like crazy. Soft footsteps, really light but definitely clear. I froze, straining to hear, and then Mia's piercing scream shattered the silence. I bolted up the stairs, but it felt like my legs had turned to stone heavy and hard to move. Mia's door was wide open, and she was standing there, huddled up, pointing at the window. I looked where she was pointing and saw a tall figure standing in the yard under the pale yellow light. He was wearing a black hoodie, just standing there, completely still, like he was watching us. Before I could even move, he turned and vanished into the darkness. Mia was trembling. I grabbed her, pulled her into my room, locked the door, and quickly called 911. While waiting for the police, I clutched a kitchen knife I'd grabbed from downstairs, my hands slick with sweat. The wind outside now sounded like someone scratching at the glass, and every little noise in the house made me jump out of my skin. But the scariest thing didn't happen at Mia's window. It happened at my parents' bedroom window. A sharp noise echoed, like glass being slid open. I froze, barely breathing, feeling like a rush of cold air had just swept in from somewhere. I didn't dare open the door. I just kept praying the police would get there in time. About 10 minutes later, the flashing red and blue lights of a police car lit up the window, and I finally felt a wave of relief, like I'd just been saved. The cops searched the entire house, inside and out. They found my parents' bedroom window had been forced open, with clear footprints in the snow outside, leading into the woods. Even though they searched the area around the house, they didn't find anyone. One of the officers asked if I had any idea who it could be, or if my family knew anyone suspicious. I had no idea how to answer. How could I even explain that this person had probably used a fake identity to trick me into thinking they were someone else on a dating app? After that night, I couldn't sleep right ever again. Every time I looked out the window, I couldn't shake the feeling that person's silhouette was out there, hiding in the dark. I couldn't help but wonder, why me? Was it just random, or was there something more to it? Whatever the reason is, I know things will never go back to normal. That person is still out there, waiting, and that thought haunts me every single night. Be careful what you come across online. Not everything's true, and not everyone's got good intentions. Sometimes the scariest things aren't ghosts or horror stories, but people you know, with a darkness behind them you never saw coming.